Here is an example of how to make use of the config node module into a Node.js application. We're gonna use it in our test cafe testing library and see how we can extend the properties inside our application. This node module lets you define a set of default parameters and extend them for different deployment environments like development, QA, staging, or production. In order to use the config module into our application, we just need to run npm i config --- save dev, and this will actually save the node module into the dev dependencies object in a package.json, or just -dev, which will save it into the dependencies object. After installation, you can see the config key value pair in the dependencies object in package.json with the latest version. Now let's create a folder in our project and also create a file with default.js, and we're gonna use the JavaScript version for the config. We can use other versions like JSON, YAML, XML, but for now we're just gonna stick to JavaScript. Inside our default.js file, we're gonna just create our key value pair. So basically we just need to write module.exports, and then we can actually create an object with the new URL that we want to use. In our landing page file, we are going to import the config, and from there we can actually use the URL that we just created. We just need to write config.url, and basically that value is going to be used in our landing URL. Now let's run the test and see that the new URL used is the one that we actually declared now in the default JavaScript file. Having another look at our test, what it's supposed to do is just open the landing page URL and then assert it with the current page that we have it in our configuration file. Now let's go back and create another file. Let's call it staging.js, and let's define a different URL and run the test against this new environment file that we just created. In order to use the new file, we're just gonna create a new entry in the package.json, which will call end-to-end :staging, and we're gonna declare a new node environment property which is called staging, which will make use of the new file that we just created. Let's run the test against staging at the moment and see that we actually run the test against the new URL that we entered, which is yahoo.com. And we can see that the new URL Yahoo opened, and because the consent URL opened while we running our test, we can see that the test failed because we were comparing with the one that we declared in the staging.js file, which is quite good. Now we can also go ahead and create another file in our configuration folder, which is production.js. We can declare a new URL into our file, and let's run the test against this new file and see that we open the new URL. So basically at the moment we have 3 new files. The configuration is going to be taken out of these 3 files based on the scripts that we just declared in the package.json. The values from the default.js file can be overridden and extended by environment variables, command line parameters, or external sources.